Hey guys, welcome back to Art Theories, coming at you live from the forest. And this week we are talking about Walter Benjamin's work of art in the mechanical age of reproduction. Walter Benjamin was a German Jewish Marxist intellectual who lived during the turn of the 19th to the 20th century. He lived through the First World War and he wrote some very groundbreaking essays about philosophy, art and literature, and he tried to flee Nazi-occupied Europe during the Second World War, and tragically when he realised he was unable to flee, he decided to take his own life rather than face being captured by the Nazis. Okay, and that bit I learnt from Wikipedia, but everything else is from the books, I promise. So human beings have always had ways of reproducing artworks. For example, the Greeks used embossing on metals, and in the medieval period you had engraving, and a bit later copper plates became available. So there's loads of different ways in which artists and artisans have been able to reproduce imagery. But in the modern period, and I'm talking about Walter B's modern period rather than our modern period, but his modern period, images were able to be reproduced mechanically and industrially through things like film, photography and printing. So you could take an image and make it 100 times, boom, done. And that completely changed the nature of art, how art was received, how art works, and literally its nature, I guess, its essence. What Walter Benjamin's saying is, when you create multiple of an artwork, that artwork is no longer unique. And that's a pretty obvious point, because to be unique there has to be one of you, and if there's loads of you, you're no longer unique. So yeah. But Benjamin expands on what he means when he says uniqueness. He describes uniqueness as the quintessence of everything about its creation that can be handed down from its material duration to the historical witness that it bears. And that was a bit formula weird, but like what I understand that to be is like, imagine you've got a painting which is like 500 years old. Like, it's kind of got marks on it, people have held it, it's been in the presence of famous historical figures, it's sat in certain houses, it was used by materials which were only available at that time, and these sorts of things you can't actually reproduce. They are unique, there's only one of them, and it's those things that can only be collected organically over time which get lost when you reproduce an artwork. And Benjamin acknowledges that reproduction has benefits. When you reproduce an artwork, obviously you get loads of them, that's great. They can be in loads of different places at the same time, and also loads more people can see them, and they open up a lot more opportunities for artists to do different things with their artworks. So there is positives, but what he's also saying is that there's a negative, and that's the loss of uniqueness. And Benjamin goes on to claim that uniqueness is what gives a work of art its, I'm going to use these things, authority and its aura. So, no uniqueness means no authority and no aura. So why is this important? Why does it matter if art lost its aura? And what are the implications? Well, to answer that question, firstly, we need to go way back to the beginning of recorded art history. And what you find if you look at examples of the first artworks ever made in different cultures and societies around the world is that generally they are tied to ritual or magic, or slightly later, religion. And what I mean by that is art was a prop, or art was in service of some kind of ritualistic or religious attempt to communicate with the supernatural, with the spiritual realm from our realm. And the power of that came from its uniqueness. So there's one statue of Venus and you're stood in front of it and you can feel its aura. You can see the marks made by the artist. It's in the temple where it's always been, and that's its uniqueness, that's its aura, that's its authority, and we can see why that would have been really important at that time to that artwork. However, over time, and due to a number of factors, one of which was the invention of photography, the other one being the ability of reproduction and the whole modernism thing, artworks became less and less tied to religious or spiritual service, and art for art's sake was born. Art was just being done basically because it wanted to be done, and it was more about its display value, what it looked like, its conceptual ideas, rather than being in the service of a religious or a spiritual agenda of some kind. And so in losing its aura, art basically cut ties with its cultic value, its cultic purpose. It was no longer in the service of these things, and it was free to go somewhere else. So where did art go when it stopped serving religious purposes? Well, Benjamin claims that art moved away from religion and towards politics. And the example Benjamin gives of an artwork which has no aura, in no way serves a cultic value and is politically charged, was the Dada movement. This was art that was unmarketable. It was intentionally destructive or randomly generated. It provoked public irritation and it did not cater to bourgeoisie tastes. Benjamin claims that under Dadaism, the artwork became a bullet. Benjamin also writes about the importance of film in this essay, and he regards film as the mechanically reproducible equivalent to theatre. However, there are some key differences between film and theatre. Most obviously, theatre has a here and now aspect. You're in front of the actors and actresses on the stage and you can see them, you can feel their presence. Theatre has aura, and film, unfortunately, due to it being reproduced, does not have that same aura. And along with that comes the fact that theatre has to be one continuous flow of a performance because there's people watching and you can't edit, whereas film has access to editing and can stitch together loads of tiny fragments of performances to create one mega performance, which again is fantastic and it gives you a lot of options to do new and interesting things, but Benjamin claims aura is lost in the process. And one point which Benjamin makes, I'm not sure I agree with, but I think it's an interesting point. He says that because film lost aura, it artificially recreated aura in the form of the cult of celebrity and the cult of stardom, because you can't actually have a here and now relationship between the artwork. You create this kind of psychological one by building up this idea of stars and this idea of celebrity, and preserving that sense of aura in the age of mechanical reproduction in film. Interesting thought. I don't know where I stand with that one, but it's what he says in the book, so I'm just repeating it. And Benjamin sees film as a double-edged blade, because on the one hand you have all these new possibilities which are fantastic. You have access to editing, you have access to these new cinemas which create a whole new experience for the viewers, and you have so many more viewers. But he also believes that due to the lack of aura, people watch films in a state of distraction. They're not kind of focused or present as they would be in front of a unique theatre production or artwork. Again, I don't really know if I agree with that. I find it almost a little bit condescending, but I'm just putting out there what he says and you can make up your own minds. So as always, let me know what you think down below, and like, subscribe, all that stuff. If you think I've misinterpreted anything in the essay, or if you had a different interpretation of something written in the essay, hit me up below in the comments. Thank you very much for watching.